The first clue was the $3,000 charge from a strip club in Miami. On the same weekend, he said he was at a men's retreat. I wasn't snooping, not really. Our rent had gone up again, groceries were brutal, and I was already behind on a few credit card payments. So when I noticed a low balance alert from our joint account, I logged in, fully expecting to see a couple too many DoorDash charges or maybe his usual fantasy football donations. Instead, I saw that charge. Miami Night Goddess, $3,048.76. My stomach flipped. I stared at it like it was a typo. He wasn't even in Miami, or so he'd told me. That weekend, he'd kissed me goodbye wearing his Patagonia fleece and said they were heading into the woods. No signal, no distractions, just real talk with the guys. Bullshit. I started scrolling further back. I shouldn't have, or maybe I should have done it sooner. There were more. Skyline Auto Leasing $900, 00. LYFT Lux $144.62. Apple Pay McDonald's $8.92. Vintage Rolex $5,200, 00. Wait, Rolex. We were barely making ends meet. Our fridge had exactly one sad container of hummus, and I had started picking up extra shifts at the bakery to cover utilities. How the fuck did a Rolex get in the mix? I took screenshots, so many screenshots, then I opened our closet and checked his drawer. Empty. Well, not empty, but the usual chaos, keys, old receipts, loose change was too organized. That's when I saw the second phone. It was tucked in a sock, no lock screen, just unlocked and open like it wanted to be found. His texts were all business at first, mostly about unit pricing and shipment delays, which didn't make sense. He worked in tech, not shipping, but then I found a folder called Sweet Girl. And I swear to God, I stopped breathing. The texts were all from the past few weeks. One of them read, "Babe, don't stress her. I'm working on that prenup. Just keep the line open for when I move in." I felt the blood drain from my head. Prenup. We weren't even engaged yet. We talked about it, sure. He said, "If we do it, I want to protect us both, you know?" But now it sounded like he was drawing one up with someone else. I kept going, skimming like my hands were on fire. Another message. Got her to Casa the car. She still thinks I'm building credit. And once I clear the account, I'm gone. No loose ends. That was when I slammed the phone down and ran to the bathroom to throw up. The account, my account. I called my bank. The woman on the line confirmed what I already feared. 2 weeks ago, someone had transferred $18,500 from my personal savings into our joint account. I never authorized it. She said it was done via signed transfer slip, looked legit, even had your signature. My signature. Except I hadn't been in a bank branch in months, not since before my mom passed. I asked her to email me the scanned form. I opened it on my laptop. And there it was, my name shaky and off-center, but definitely forged. My hands shook so hard I could barely type. When he got home later that night, I didn't say a word. Just watched him, sitting there on our thrifted couch, sipping whiskey like he hadn't stolen every dollar I had. He looked tired, or maybe smug. I couldn't tell anymore. He kissed my forehead, said, "Tough day, babe, we'll get through it." Oh, we would, but not the way he thought. I went to the bedroom, grabbed the second phone, and texted the number from Sweet Girl. She found everything, you better run. 10 minutes later, the phone rang. He was in the shower. I answered on speaker. What the hell do you mean she found everything? A woman's voice, harsh, panicked. You promised me she wouldn't know until the lease was up. I didn't say a word. I let it play out, let her rant, while I stared at my reflection in the dark window like I was watching someone else's life detonate. Then I heard the knock. It wasn't him, he was still humming in the shower. I opened the door to a man in a gray polo with a clipboard. "Hi, sorry to drop this late," he said, "but I need you to sign off on the foreclosure notice." Foreclosure. Not eviction, not late rent. Foreclosure. There's a lien on this property, he said. Owner hasn't made payments in 6 months. You've got 30 days. My throat closed. I didn't own the place, we rented it, or so I thought. Who's the owner? I croaked. He flipped the page. Looks like you. The hallway spun. because I did sign something last December. He said it was for a refinance so we could get lower rent. I was rushed, signing while on the phone with my boss. I didn't read the fine print. He made me the owner of a property he wasn't paying off, and now I was the one being foreclosed on. I turned and looked at the man in my shower. He stepped out wrapped in a towel, smiling like nothing had happened. And that's when I noticed the safe behind him, wide open. And completely empty. I don't remember walking into the bathroom. I just remember seeing him, dripping wet, humming something stupid under his breath, towel slung low, like nothing in the world had shifted. But it had. I was holding the foreclosure notice in one hand and his burner phone in the other. I felt nuclear. He looked up. "Hey babe, everything okay?" "Where's the money?" I asked. He blinked too slow. "What money?" I tossed the empty safe open so hard it slammed into the wall. "The money, Jason. The money you forged my signature to get. The money you used to buy a Rolex. The money that paid for your little stripper vacation in Miami while I was clipping coupons to afford groceries." His expression didn't change right away, just a twitch in the jaw. Then, finally, he spoke. "You're blowing this out of proportion." I laughed, not like haha funny, like the kind of laugh that makes people step back. "You forged my signature, Jason. You drained my savings. You made me the legal owner of a house you stopped paying for 6 months ago, and now I've got 30 days before the bank takes it." He rubbed the towel through his hair like I just told him the weather was bad. "I had a plan," he mumbled. "A plan?" I echoed. "Did that plan include Sweet Girl? Because she's under the impression you're about to move in with her." Jason froze, finally. I held up the burner phone. "You really thought I wouldn't find this?" He lunged. Not at me, at the phone. But I was ready. I stepped back, locked myself in the bedroom, and called the cops. While I was on the phone with dispatch, he was on the other side of the door, pounding like a madman. "It's not what you think. She's nothing to me. I did this for us." Us, he kept saying us. The cops showed up 12 minutes later. By then he was outside, packing barefoot on the lawn, still wrapped in his towel. He had no idea I'd printed everything. The transfer slip, the texts, the bank statements, even the Rolex listing he posted to resell it. They took him in for forgery and identity theft. But here's the kicker, he made bail the same night. By morning, he was out, and that's when things got worse. I went to the bank to freeze the accounts, only to find out he'd already closed the joint one. The second phone? Wiped. The texts were gone. My cloud backup, deleted from my iCloud by someone logged in as me. Turns out he'd been slowly stealing access to passwords, fingerprints, even voice memos I once left him that he used for voice verification at the bank. I called the leasing office, desperate to prove I wasn't the homeowner, but it was all under my name now. Signed and notarized, thanks to documents he had someone forge in my name. I couldn't believe how deep it went. He didn't just lie, he rewrote my legal existence. The real bomb dropped 3 days later. I came home from work and found the locks changed. There was a red notice taped to the door. Property seized, subject to pending civil litigation. What the actual hell? I called the number listed and found out Jason had filed a temporary restraining order against me. He claimed I was emotionally volatile, unstable, and threatened to ruin his professional career. And the judge granted it, pending review, because he was able to produce texts from my phone. I hadn't sent those texts. But someone had. He'd cloned my number, probably with the second phone. I was locked out of my house. My name was on the foreclosure. And now, officially, I wasn't allowed to even step onto the property until my court date. I slept in my car that night. I cried into the steering wheel until I couldn't breathe. Then I remembered something, the prenup draft. Jason and I weren't legally married, but he'd insisted on writing a prenup just in case. He said it would protect both of us. What I didn't realize then, he'd been planning a financial escape route this entire time. He'd forged the prenup and filed it. I didn't think you could even file a prenup without a marriage certificate. Turns out he labeled it a cohabitation agreement, which in some states is a thing. I finally got a lawyer through legal aid. She looked at everything and said, "This man is a sociopath with a spreadsheet." But even she didn't expect what came next. Jason sued me for breach of fiduciary duty in a domestic partnership. In other words, he accused me of stealing his money because the Rolex. He claimed I bought it as a gift and later regretted it. The car lease, a mutual investment. The $18,500 from my savings, a shared asset I withdrew for household needs. My lawyer warned me, he's trying to bankrupt you with legal fees. I said he already did. But what neither of us knew, not yet, was that Jason had one more account. One more devastating, account-draining secret. And I was about to find it in the worst possible way. Because the IRS came knocking next. When the IRS showed up at my temp job with a folder that had my name on it in all caps, I thought it was a joke. I'd never made enough money to be on their radar. I was a bakery shift manager with a couple freelance gigs on Etsy. But apparently, according to them, I owed over $62,000 in unpaid back taxes. I actually laughed, right there in the break room next to the industrial coffee pot that always smelled faintly like burnt toast. There's no way, I said. This has to be some other person. The agent, a pale man with sweaty palms and a practiced expression, didn't even blink. Miss, were you or were you not the registered owner of Stellar Momentum LLC from 2021 to 2023? That name. I'd seen it before, in a folder Jason once had open on his laptop. He told me it was a startup idea, a side hustle he was exploring with his old college friend. I never saw any invoices or clients. I just assumed, like so many things with Jason, it would amount to nothing. But apparently, it amounted to everything. They slid a document across the table. And there it was. My name, my signature again forged, and a full tax history for Stellar Momentum LLC filed under my social security number. Ma'am, the company received over $190,000 in pandemic-era small business relief. All of it deposited into accounts under your name. My jaw hung open. That money never came to me. I never saw a dime. I didn't even know the company existed legally. The agent nodded grimly. That's what everyone says. I asked if Jason was listed anywhere. He was. All of it was made to look like a one-woman operation. My name, my digital signature, my address. Even the bank account attached to it had my name. Except I'd never opened that account. I felt sick. Jason had used me, my love, my trust, my ID, to commit financial fraud. And the worst part, I still didn't know where the money went. I called my lawyer in a panic. She was already waiting on documents from the county clerk's office about the fake cohabitation agreement. Now she had to add tax fraud to the list. Let me guess, she said, voice dry. The Stellar account is drained too. I checked that night. Got the last 4 digits from the IRS file, plugged them into a recovery tool with my info. It pinged back one result. Balance, $11.57. He had cleaned it out, and now the government wanted their cut from me. I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat on the floor of my friend's apartment, where I was crashing on an air mattress, scrolling through every trace of Jason I could find. That's when I stumbled on a LinkedIn update I hadn't seen before. He'd updated his job title. Financial consultant for high-profile divorcees, specializing in asset protection and prenup enforcement. Excuse me, what the fuck? I clicked through. There were endorsements, glowing reviews, testimonials from women I'd never heard of. One post stood out. A woman named Tara gushed. After my breakup, Jason helped me make sure I walked away with everything I was owed. He protected me. Highly recommend. I DM'd her. I didn't even care if I sounded unhinged. Hi, sorry, you don't know me. But did Jason ever ask you to open an account in your name or file anything on your behalf? Please, it's urgent. She responded almost immediately. Who are you? I thought he said he was single. Wait, he didn't do this to you too, did he? We talked for an hour, and then another woman joined the call, then a third. Each of them had stories like mine. Forged documents, ghost bank accounts, property leases they never signed, prenups that made them financially liable. One woman even said he convinced her to sell her car so they could go in on a dream rental in Bali. There was no Bali, just a trail of drained accounts and broken credit scores. I knew what I had to do. I got all three women to email sworn statements to my lawyer. We opened a group chat called the Jason Damage Recovery Team. And the next morning, I filed a formal complaint with the police again, but this time with evidence, lots of it. The detective assigned to me said something I'll never forget. This guy doesn't just scam, he creates financial hostages. Still, the system was slow. The restraining order hearing was a week away, and until then, I still couldn't step foot on what was supposedly my house. So I did something desperate. I went to his mother. I hadn't spoken to her in over a year. Jason always said she was toxic, that she manipulated with guilt. But the moment I knocked on her door and told her what happened, her face changed. She didn't even look surprised. She poured us both tea, sat me down, and said, "He did this to his last fiancée too." What? Sarah, sweet girl, ended up in bankruptcy. She tried to sue, but he always knows just how far to go without technically breaking laws. Or when he does, he makes it untraceable. It's what his father did, too. I felt like I was swallowing glass. "Why didn't you warn me?" I whispered. She looked at me with eyes that were already dead to him, because he doesn't let people near you long enough to tell you the truth. She handed me a small envelope. Inside it was a USB stick. "What's this?" Every document I could find, emails, drafts, scanned IDs, passwords. He made me notarize some of those things when I used to help with his paperwork. I didn't know what he was really doing. Not at first. I took the drive. I was going to burn him with it. But first, I needed to know why. Why me? Why all of us? Why so many women over so many years? That's when I opened one of the files. A spreadsheet. And in the title bar it read, "Exit Plan Target, ELLE, $250,000 goal." My name. A date range. Projected income, estimated assets, emotional leverage notes. And at the very bottom in bold, current progress, $226,320.41/$250,000. He hadn't finished yet. That spreadsheet broke something in me. Not just because it tracked every dollar he'd siphoned from my life like a financial vampire, but because it logged emotions like line items. One column was labeled emotional leverage. It had rows like, mention her mom when she asks questions, derail with grief. Say I'm doing this for us after big transfers. Sex plus expensive dinner equals 2 weeks of obedience. I wasn't even a person to him. I was a project, an investment, a ticking wallet. I stared at the total again, $226,320.41. He had a goal. He was planning to take $250,000 from my life and vanish. And the only reason he hadn't finished, because I'd found him out just $24K short. I sent everything on the USB to my lawyer. She nearly screamed. "This is gold. Real-time intent, documented manipulation, financial fraud, forged IDs. This is what gets indictments, Elle." But we weren't fast enough. Because Jason made the next move. 3 days before our court hearing for the restraining order reversal, I got an email from my boss. Subject, "We need to talk." I was fired. The reason? A formal complaint submitted to HR, signed by me, confessing to stealing cash from the register and using my position to launder illicit funds through the bakery's corporate account. I never wrote that letter, but Jason did. He knew exactly how to nuke the last shred of financial stability I had. I called HR, pleaded, screamed, they wouldn't budge. "You confessed in writing," they said, "and we've confirmed you accessed payroll last week." I didn't even have admin access. He'd hacked into the online portal using my old passwords, probably logged in from his own IP, masked with a VPN. I was done playing defense. It was time to flip the game. With the USB evidence in hand and 3 other women willing to testify, we filed for an emergency injunction and a criminal investigation. My lawyer got a sympathetic judge who agreed to fast-track a hearing if I could prove immediate, irreparable harm. So I got a little creative. I printed that spreadsheet, blew it up, and the morning of the hearing, I walked into the courthouse, with it folded under my arm like a presentation board at a science fair. Jason was already inside, smirking with his cheap-ass suit and his fake consultant briefcase. But when I walked in, I saw it. The moment his eyes caught the printout, the blood drained from his face. I unfolded it slowly at the plaintiff's table, slid it to the judge. "Exhibit A," I said, "a literal roadmap of how this man emotionally and financially dismantled my life." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Who wrote this?" I looked Jason dead in the eyes. "He did." My lawyer backed me up with everything. The USB metadata showing creation timestamps, his mom's notarized affidavit, the cloned bank records, statements from the other women. Jason tried to argue fabrication and emotional vendettas. But then I dropped the real bomb. The video. One of the other women, Tara, had once filmed him confessing to opening accounts under her name just to move some money around without red tape. She hadn't realized it was illegal at the time, but now it was evidence. The courtroom went quiet as his voice filled the room. "They trust you more when you act like you're protecting them. That's when they sign anything." The judge ordered a freeze on all his known accounts within 10 minutes. He also issued an emergency protective order for me and every woman involved. And then came the biggest twist of all. Jason's own mother requested to testify. When she took the stand, she dropped a sentence that stunned everyone. "He used my name, too, for a property in Palm Springs. I didn't find out until the mortgage defaulted." The courtroom exploded. Jason turned gray. And just like that, the fraud web was too big to ignore. The state issued a warrant for deeper investigation. He was remanded into custody on the spot. But even then, even in handcuffs, he turned to me and said, "You'll regret this." I walked out shaking, nauseous, high on fear and fury. But we weren't done. Because 2 days later, a new lawyer called my attorney. She represented a private investor fund. Jason had taken $40,000 of their money for a client acquisition funnel he claimed he was running through me. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just using me to drain my savings. He was using my name to open fake business deals and funnel other people's money through fake LLCs under my SSN. And the worst part, one of them was suing me for wire fraud. I wanted to scream. He hadn't just broken my heart, he'd weaponized me, turned my identity into a criminal enterprise. My lawyer filed for emergency identity theft protection. But there was one more line item on that spreadsheet I hadn't noticed before. It was buried at the bottom, hidden under gray font. Backup exit plan. Cayman account /Elle's passport info plus fake marriage cert, ETA June 30. That was today. And I still had no idea what that plan really meant. I drove straight to the courthouse, heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. Fake marriage certificate, Cayman account, June 30, that was today. Jason was already behind bars, so how the hell could this plan still be active? Unless it didn't require him anymore. My lawyer didn't answer her phone, so I showed up at her office unannounced. She took one look at my face and waved me into the conference room. "Slow down," she said. "Tell me everything." I slid my laptop across the table and pulled up the spreadsheet again, highlighting the last gray row. Backup exit plan. Cayman account /Elle's passport info plus fake marriage cert, ETA June 30. She squinted. "Fake marriage certificate, he never legally married you." "Exactly," I said, "but what if he made it look like we were married?" She sat back, silent, then picked up her cell and made a call to a contact in the county records office. "Hey, it's me, can you do a quick lookup, marriage license? Name, Elle Harmon, partner, Jason Crew, anything filed in the last 6 months? Yeah, under alternate jurisdictions too, I'll hold." We waited. Tick. 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 Wait, what? Send me that email now. elleharmonlaw@gmail.com, no now. She hung up and turned to me with a face like someone just told her the moon was fake. "You're married?" I blinked. "No, I'm not." "Yes," she said. "You are. According to the state of Nevada, you two applied for a marriage license in person, and it was processed 5 weeks ago. I've never even been to Nevada this year." "You didn't need to be," she said grimly. He submitted a notarized remote proxy marriage affidavit. Do you know what that means? I shook my head. It means Jason had someone else stand in for you, with fake ID. Probably faked your signature too. Nevada's one of the few states that allows that under specific circumstances. I felt like the walls were closing in. She kept going. This opens up a whole new level of legal shit. If the marriage is accepted as legitimate, even under false pretenses, it means he could have opened that Cayman account in both your names. And if he dies, disappears, or defaults on the account, you become the legal beneficiary. Or worse, the one the IRS holds accountable. I stared at her, so I could go to prison for being married without knowing it. Not prison, yet, but they can freeze your passport, your credit, your travel. Cayman accounts get flagged fast. That's when her phone pinged. She opened the email and went pale. She slowly turned the screen toward me. It was a high-resolution scan of the marriage license. It had my photo, my signature, even my ID number. But that's from my driver's license photo, I whispered, from 4 years ago. Deepfake, she said. He probably used AI and layered your face on someone else, and the signature's traced. Look, see how the line pressure is too smooth. I felt my legs give. I sat down hard. This man didn't just break me, he engineered me. She grabbed her coat. We're going to the federal office, now. We took the documents and filed an emergency fraud claim with the DOJ's Financial Crimes Unit. The agent assigned looked like he'd seen this kind of thing before, but not at this level. I'll need to freeze both your IDs, he said, and we're going to put a temporary block on all financial activity tied to this marriage certificate, including the offshore account. How long will that take? I asked. Normally, days, but the account pinged activity this morning. What kind of activity? Wire transfer request, outbound, amount, $23,679.59. I stopped breathing. That was the exact amount Jason still needed to hit his spreadsheet goal. He was trying to finish the job from jail. That's when it hit me. He had help. I opened my phone and pulled up the message from Sweet Girl, the one I'd responded to when I first found the burner phone. I hadn't blocked her number. I texted again. He's in jail, don't let him do this. She responded. Too late, he said we'd be rich, you shouldn't have crossed him. My fingers went numb. She knew she was in on it. I forwarded the conversation to the federal agent on the spot. She's triggering the transfer, I said. He's using her as his proxy. They moved fast after that, pulled his prison phone records, found calls to an unlisted number registered under a fake name, but matching the location of the last ping from her texts. Within 48 hours, the feds issued a warrant. They picked her up at a luxury apartment downtown with a passport, burner phone, and withdrawal instructions for the offshore account. And guess what they found on her? A forged death certificate. For me, Jason's backup exit plan wasn't just to drain my savings. He was going to fake my death. So the account would liquidate, and he or his accomplice could claim it all, no questions asked. My blood ran cold. That was why the date was so important. June 30, he was going to kill me on paper and walk away clean. Except now, the feds had everything. They slapped Jason with new charges. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Conspiracy to commit financial homicide. Forgery. Tax evasion. Unauthorized marriage under false identity. Use of deepfake in a federal crime. Bail was revoked. Assets frozen. Every woman he ever targeted, contacted by the DOJ. And me. I finally stood in court 1 month later. This time not as a victim, but as a plaintiff. And just when I thought the nightmare was over. Jason stood up in court, smirked, and said, "You think I did this alone? You think I did this alone?" The courtroom went silent. Even the judge paused, gavel in hand, mid-motion. Jason stood there in his rumpled jail-issued suit, wrists cuffed, but eyes glittering with something I hadn't seen before, not just arrogance. Triumph. My stomach twisted. He looked straight at me as he said, "You really think someone like you could be worth that kind of money without help?" The judge snapped, "Mr. Crew, this is not the time for theatrics. Sit down." But I was already standing. What does that mean, someone like me? Jason's lips curled. You never wondered why your credit history was so clean, why your savings account hit 5 digits in a year while you were working part-time jobs. What the hell are you talking about? I spat. He leaned forward. You were groomed, Elle, not just by me, by people you trusted. I just happened to be the closer. I looked at my lawyer. She looked at me. Neither of us knew what the hell he meant. Until the prosecutor approached the bench with a whisper, slid a folder into the judge's hand. His brows furrowed, then lifted. Then he called a recess. We'll reconvene in 30 minutes. Ms. Harmon, please stay. When we got into the private conference room, the prosecutor closed the door and said, Elle, have you ever heard of the Melrose Investment Circle? I shook my head. No, why? He opened the folder. Inside were 4 names. One jumped out like a punch to the face. Zara Harmon. My sister. What? No, that can't be right. The prosecutor explained. Your sister was listed as a founding member of an offshore wealth building group. All members had designated income proxies, people they used to legally earn, launder, or shelter funds. You were one of them. No, I said, stumbling back. Zara's a yoga teacher. She lives in Sedona. She drives a bike. She also owns 3 LLCs and had a Cayman account linked to your name, Elle. Same number Jason tried to drain. My breath caught. My own sister. She submitted your info for a clean ID transfer years ago. Jason was brought in later as part of the harvest stage. Harvest? It's a term used in fraud rings. Someone else nurtures the identity, boosts the profile, keeps you compliant. Then someone like Jason shows up and bleeds it dry. You were always the asset. You just didn't know it. I felt like I was sinking through the floor. You're saying she set me up. The prosecutor nodded. We believe Jason and your sister were partners until they had a falling out. He went rogue, started taking more than agreed. I remembered something Jason said years ago when we'd fought about money. Don't you ever wonder why you're always everyone's favorite investment? Back then, I thought it was just another one of his condescending digs, but now I saw it for what it was. A warning I didn't understand. They gave me protective custody that night. Zara hadn't been located yet, her apartment in Sedona, empty, her phone off, socials wiped. She had disappeared. And Jason was smiling again. That smile cracked the next morning. Because the 3rd phone was found. Not the burner, not the one I discovered in the sock drawer. A 3rd device hidden in a drop box under his mother's house, labeled, "Do not touch unless I'm dead." Jason wasn't planning a clean getaway. He was building a legacy. Inside the phone was a cache of audio memos, spreadsheets, and videos, not just of me, of other women, confessions, blackmail, walkthroughs of exactly how he manipulated each one. One file stood out. ZH Final Plan, Mauve. I opened it. It was Zara, looking straight into the camera. Blonde streak in her braid, yoga mat rolled up behind her. If you're watching this, then Elle knows, she said, voice calm. I'm not sorry. She went on for 7 minutes, describing how she recruited me at 16, fed me a carefully controlled diet of shame, debt trauma, and ambition, then handed me over to Jason when she thought I was ripe for activation. She even said the quiet part out loud. I never wanted a sister. I wanted a clean alias. And she was perfect, so eager to be good, so easy to lead. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. The video ended with her laughing. If I ever see her again, tell her thanks, she made me rich. I sent the video to every authority we were working with. Jason was charged with conspiracy with a known accomplice. Interpol got involved. Zara was now flagged at every international airport. Her photo hit the financial crimes database under a new label. High-value confidence predator. They froze every known asset tied to her identity. I was put through a full forensic audit to separate me from her. It would take months, maybe years. But I was done waiting. I filed a civil suit against Jason and Zara. I demanded full restitution. The IRS granted me temporary victim relief, and my debt was put on hold. Still, I wasn't safe yet. Because Jason. He still had something left to give. And during our final court appearance, when I walked past his seat, he leaned forward and whispered just one word. Pregnant. I stopped cold. He grinned. You should really check the Cayman account again. Pregnant. That word hit like a brick to the ribs. I turned so fast my shoulder cracked. Jason was already being pulled back by 2 officers, smirking like a man who still had a card up his sleeve. I stormed out of the courtroom, heart in my throat. My lawyer caught up with me in the hallway. He's bluffing, she said. He has nothing left. But she was wrong. Back at her office, I logged into the Cayman account again using the emergency access granted by the DOJ. The main balance still showed $11.57. But there was now a subfolder labeled Joint Custody Disbursement, Pending Birth Certificate. I clicked. A pending transaction, $250,000. Set to transfer in 10 days. Beneficiary, Baby Harmon Crew Trust Fund. Trustee, Zara Harmon. I felt like I was watching the world unravel in slow motion. There were uploaded forms, scanned, notarized digital copies of a birth plan, hospital registration, prenatal care records. All under my name. All forged. My blood ran cold. They weren't trying to actually have a baby. They were inventing one. Fabricating a child using forged documents, then assigning me as the birth mother, and Jason as the father. A fake family to inherit a very real trust fund. A Cayman loophole. In some international financial setups, once a child is registered under a trust, even with fraudulent docs, the trustee can gain full access after a certain term unless contested. Jason didn't need to escape to steal everything. He just needed to wait. Zara had set herself as the legal guardian of the trust if the mother was deemed unfit or missing. And since she'd already filed a death certificate for me as part of the exit plan, that clock was ticking. They weren't bluffing. They were finishing the heist without ever lifting a finger. I dropped into a chair, stunned. My lawyer called the DOJ again, flagged it immediately. We need a full-stop injunction and Cayman coordination, today. I spent the next 48 hours being fingerprinted, re-verified, scanned, questioned, debriefed, and cross-checked. Every official form I'd ever submitted in my life was used to prove I was me. And still, the Cayman Bank hesitated. Because legally, the documents were airtight. They had a fake Elle Harmon, complete with a delivery record, a pediatric contact, and even a fucking fake ultrasound. That's when I made my move. I posted it. The spreadsheet, the deepfake marriage license, the offshore trust, Zara's confession video. Everything. I dumped it on Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. I created a thread called How My Sister and Ex Faked a Baby to Steal My Life. It exploded. Hundreds of thousands of views within hours. Women from all over started coming forward, former friends of Zara, exes of Jason, people who had been managed through similar identity grifts. Turns out this wasn't their first ghost baby trust scam. But it was the first time it got this public. The Cayman Bank froze the trust that same week. International investigators flew in. Zara was officially added to Interpol's red list. They caught her 4 days later in Istanbul, trying to use a French passport with a blurred-out photo and a new alias. Jason. He got word of her arrest in prison. He cracked. His plea deal came fast after that. He confessed to everything, confirmed the whole operation, from the emotional leverage, spreadsheets, to the offshore laundering to the staged marriage, the ghost child scam, everything. Zara refused to speak. Her lawyers were trying to argue she was unfit for trial due to mental health, but the evidence was stacked to the ceiling. They had no shot. In the final hearing, the judge turned to me and said, "You survived something most people would never even recognize was happening, and you fought back harder than anyone I've seen in this courtroom." Jason was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison with no parole. Zara got 12, and 3 international financial fraud charges still pending. But the damage, still very, very real. It took months to untangle my name from the mess. My credit score was obliterated. My passport's still flagged. The IRS still sends letters, just in case. And I probably won't feel safe opening a damn Gmail account without anxiety for the rest of my life. But I did get the Cayman Trust Fund dissolved. That $250K. It was seized and rerouted to pay restitution to me and 7 other women they had defrauded. And one day, when the dust finally settles, I plan to write a book about all of this. Working title: How to Fake a Baby, Break a Woman, and Still Lose Everything. Or maybe just, He Drained Every Account. Because that's what he did. Bank accounts, trust accounts, my sister's trust, my own trust in myself. But I got it back. And if you're reading this, don't wait for the missing money to make sense. Start with the question: who has access to you? Because once someone thinks you're a wallet with feelings, they'll empty both. Has anyone ever drained your account and your trust in the same day? Tell me I'm not the only one.